Thank you so much, Dr. Shruti, for joining us today. Um, we're glad to have you.
Thank you, Divya, for such a kind introduction. And thank you both to Olivia and She for Change for having me here. And it is so lovely to see you all on a Saturday evening where I'm sure you have other things to do. But thank you for coming in. I think it's lovely that you all are the first cohort of Girl Action Network. And I think it's amazing that you're pretty much the pioneers, right? And the path breakers. And I'm so immensely proud of each one of you.
Great. So to begin, since it's all about change making here, so we wanted to understand from you what, according to you, is change making. Could you tell us more about, Ashoka's "Everyone a Change Maker" motto? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, sure. I think I'll just take you back in time a little bit. And Ashoka started in 1980 as and is now the largest network of social entrepreneurs. We have about 4,000 social entrepreneurs, or Ashoka fellows, as we call them, across about 92 countries. And the more we sort of spend time with them and learn from their work, we realize that. Um, that the skill set and the mindset of a social entrepreneur is developed at a very young age. And many of these social entrepreneurs and these fellows have started very young in their life. So then we started thinking about, just a handful of social entrepreneurs are not really going to solve the problems that we have in the world, right? So how do we sort of ensure that every person has the skill set and the mindset of a change maker? And that's when we started working on this mission of everyone a change maker, where we're now trying to bring every young person to grow as a change maker, because this is something that it's a skill, right? When we talk about change making, it's a skill. It's something that you practice and get better at. So what is a change maker? A change maker is, or who is a change maker rather? A change maker is anyone who steps up to solve a problem, right? For the good of all, for a common good, or for a common purpose. Now, can all of us be change makers? The answer is yes, of course. All we need to do is to give ourselves the self permission to see identify the problem, to act on it, to mobilize people, to build a team, and to keep problem solving, because problems are never going to end, right? Be it in your own life or in around you, in your communities, your families. So it's about having that mindset of solving problems always. Now, across the world, of course, we have many change makers who are revamping education, improving health outcomes, working towards gender equity, inventing new technology and innovations, saving the environment and the climate. And I personally believe that it's a superpower, and it's a superpower that all of us have. We just need to step out of our comfort zones and put it to good use, right? And the most beautiful part is that we're seeing many more young people like you stepping up and bringing solutions to societies, right? From a Greta Thunberg to many others in our country as well. And we work with this wonderful community of Ashoka Young Changemakers and Ashoka Youth Venturers that we have built, and Olivia is a striking example of that. So what we're trying to do at Ashoka with Everyone a Changemaker, like I said, is make every single person realize their own power that they have to bring change, no matter where they are, no matter what they're doing. They can solve the problems, and they have that power within us. We just need to sort of identify it and work towards it. And we're trying to do that both at the individual level and at the institutional level. So how do you work with education, right? The success, the definition of success that our education system has for any young person, that needs to change. So it needs to be worked at both institutional level and at the individual level. So yeah, it's essentially a life skill, and we need to talk more about it, and we need to develop it. And if anybody who doesn't have this life skill is not going to succeed, irrespective of what you choose to do in life, be it a corporate career or be it a social entrepreneur or any sort of entrepreneur or anything else in life at all. So it's something that it's a life skill that each one of us needs to have.
Great. I think you made a great point there, saying that we have to build these skills, right? Sometimes the argument goes like you have to be born with it, or you're born with it. It does not work that way, right? We can build, and we have to actually train to become a change maker.
Yeah.
So, and that also that thing keeps most of us to act, because we're like, okay, maybe I do not have the skill, right? At times it happens. So a very great point made there. So to understand your journey as a change maker, like how did it start? When did it start? What have been the learnings, or the highs and the lows? Of course. So we would love to know that from you.
Thank you, Divya. I don't think I knew what change making means when I was growing up. I don't even know if that word existed as much as it does today. But growing up, I was one of those kids who would be most affected when I see somebody in trouble, or when when someone needed help. So I used to be deeply impacted
Certainly.
by that. And there have been many instances in my growing up years where I have sort of brought my friends together and sort of try to address a small, the small issues that we sort of experience in our everyday life, be it bullying as a child, or be it, I used to be one of the, one of um, the fat, not so good looking kids. I used to be bullied around a lot, right? So I really sort of had to develop the skills to be able to, work with that. So yeah, I think there have been many instances where I have sort of gotten my friends together and gotten everybody's books together to sort of build a small library in the in the little attic that we had, to ensure that we can get all the other kids who don't have as much resources to get there and access it. So that's what my growing up years looked like. But I think one of the fundamental sort of shifts in my life happened when I decided to be a journalist, and I started my career off as a journalist. And at the time, I was told that it's not a job for a woman or for a girl, and you should look at a 9 to 5 job, and you should be maybe you should consider teaching, or sarkari naukri, or any of that. So I had to sort of cross a roadblock there, even with the family and with many others, to be able to go after what I really wanted to do. And I pursued my deep interest in sort of covering human interest stories, as they were called back then, which are stories about larger societal challenges and problems, and about people overcoming those challenges. And back then it was called communication for social change. And I really worked in journalism for some time before, after that I chose to move abroad for further studies. And everyone was very happy that, oh, bacha padhai karne bahar gayi hai. But then I came back and I chose to get into the impact space, right? And that was again, oh, itna padke you are coming back and going to the social sector, it makes no sense. You're not going to earn much money, and what are you doing with your life? But that's again a path that I wanted to take, and I'm very glad I did that. And the experience that I had working with an impact investor and sort of working with many social enterprises across different sectors was a huge learning experience, because you really see these driven people who are working at really solving these large scale social problems, right? And with just such ease and panache and just such grace, right? So I think I'm very glad. And now at Ashoka, right, working with young people, I think it helps me remain young in a way. And and yeah, I think I derive a lot of energy from them. And it's amazing to see what young people are doing these days. And just their drive is just phenomenal. So yeah, I've been a change maker in my own little ways in my life, and I think that's what we all can do. We may not be able to make a big dent in the world, but what's important is what you do with your life, right, with people around you. And I think that's something that we can all do, and not get overwhelmed with anything. Yeah.
Totally. I think even a small change is a ripple effect. So I think you can influence in a lot many ways, right?
Yeah.
So, from your journey, there are 2 points that I want to pick up, and I think those are also very important today to address. And that's what we are doing exactly, through Girl Action. One is that women usually face, restrictions. Don't do that. Things are very gender defined, right? In your understanding, what do you think are the critical issues on, that needs to be addressed when it comes to empowering women, right? And this is not just about women. It's about, it differs by the caste, by the background they come from, by religion, etc. Right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of intersectionality there.
Yeah.
So all of these girls here, right, they are here to solve similar such challenges and make a more equal world. So what, in your understanding, what are these challenges? How do we address these issues, right? And second point, of course, was, when you said taking small steps, I think that's where that's what the power of, local efforts or localized efforts, and then creating a network, getting your friends and, creating networks. So we'll talk about that after this. But first, just to understand from you, what are the issues, that need to be addressed in your experience, and how can we address those?
Yeah, no, Divya, that's a very good question, and I think first off, I just want to sort of put it out there that each one of us has our own journey, right? Has our own sort of struggles that we are working with, and I don't think we can say one issue is bigger than the other, right? Or one problem is bigger than the other. And when it comes to the challenges that we as women and girls face, we know no bounds, right? There are just incredible number of challenges that we face, and I feel like we are on a spectrum, right? On the one end, and especially when the entire intersectionality discussion comes, right? And again, it's interesting also how the entire intersectionality framework also came from the West, right? And it came from the Black movement, right? And the intersectionality of race and gender there. But yeah, just coming back to just the Indian context, right? I think we're on a spectrum, right? We have the privileged, educated women who have fairly access to at least basic opportunities of getting a decent education and all of that. And then we have, on the other end of the spectrum, we have marginalized communities, right? And we have many more layers of struggle there, that they work with, which are power struggles, which is caste, which is religion, and many more layers there. So I feel like the greatest sort of disservice to the feminist movement or the women's right work, for those of us, if there are any who don't like the word feminist, the women's rights movement, the greatest disservice that we can do is create rifts within this, right? In terms of, अच्छा अभी तुमको मेरा प्रॉब्लम बड़ा लग रहा है या तुम्हारा प्रॉब्लम छोटा लग रहा है, we cannot be doing that. We need to appreciate in the women's rights movement that there are intersecting power structures that stop us from being who we are on an everyday basis, and we need to appreciate that for each other, and we need to be each other's voice to dismantle those power structures, right? That the last thing we can do is create rifts in this movement itself, where certain section of women say that, oh, you don't understand my problems. We can't be doing that to each other. I think that would be just the greatest disservice to all the struggles that women have gone through in the past and brought us where we are, right? So I think what's most important is to appreciate that not all of our journeys are the same, to appreciate that all our struggles are different, and how can we help each other, right? And get past that. I think that's something that we need to that's the only way we can address this holistically. I think we just have to be there for each other. I don't think there is any other way out. Yeah.
Right. So when we talk of the word holistically, right? So it's also said that women's issue is not just women's issue. And when the girls here and all of us are working on problems on ground, we have to interact with, the stakeholders. All kinds of stakeholders are there. How do you think, like, one is, of course, that women, empowering women and standing up for women, that is one part of it. How do we bring in the community, the remaining community, especially the men, in this movement? And what has been your experience? Like, as a change maker, you would have also, made an effort towards getting girls and boys together and working towards one movement, or just making a holistic impact, right? So how do we make that happen, and how do we approach it?
Yeah. Uh, you're absolutely right. It is not, gender equality is not one person's agenda or one section of population's agenda. It is everyone's agenda, right? And it has to be seen as everyone's issue, and it has to be priority for everyone, both at the individual and the institutional level, be it a school, be it an educational institution, a college, or a corporate. It doesn't matter. It has to be on the table for a discussion for both at the individual and the institutional level. Now, again, if I go back in time a little bit, right? If we look at the most important movements in history, right?
Yeah.
If we had to look at civil rights, or if we had to look at the freedom struggle, or if we had to look at universal human rights, right? For any movement to be successful, for anything to become a new norm, right? To become like an everyday thing. And that's what we want, right? We want just equal opportunities for women. We just want to be there just like everyone else is, right? And for that to happen, it ultimately has to account everyone. For any sort of new behavior to come in the society, everyone has to be included. You cannot say, okay, or men cannot be a part of this movement and we are going to go there and just achieve gender equality. It's not going to happen, right? Every community member, every man has to be a part of this movement as well. And I think also uh, I think over a period of time, in my experience of interacting with people who are working in this space, is also that men are also beginning to realize that patriarchy is not just harming women, right? It's harming men equally. The entire toxic masculinity is bringing equal damage to men, right? Be it mental health, be it just not being able to be a stay-at-home father if one chooses to be, right. It affects men in different ways as well. So I think there is that realization that's coming in. It might take a bit more longer, but I think men are beginning to realize that this is a priority, not just for women but for us as well. And it's interesting how, when I've noticed, when some men become fathers, they suddenly have this big realization, when they see their daughter and they say, oh, मेरी बच्ची को भी equal rights मिलना चाहिए, when they didn't really think about it before they experienced uh, that that new girl in their life. But I think we'll get there. I think we've made a lot of progress and we'll get there, and we just need to ensure that everybody realizes that smashing patriarchy is important for everyone. It's enabling equal opportunities for all. It's having gender fluid roles, right? It's not just men and women. We have, we talk about gender, we have to expand that definition. So it's not just for one section of the society, and people are beginning to realize that. I think we're making progress and we'll get there.
Yeah, totally,
Yeah,
totally.
and sorry, Divya, I think one more point is, if we look at a lot of social entrepreneurs, and even before the term social entrepreneur existed, Dr. Raja Ram Mohan Roy to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who brought in the entire inheritance of property to women and all of that into the constitution. Men have played a significant role in bringing us where we are. So it's not as if they have just not been a part of this. It's just not as much in number as we would like. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think the key is to identify those men who are going to stand up and then they sort of take it to their community. Totally. Talking about the problems that are on ground, right? So here we have some of the brilliant ideas, right? Girls want to work on menstruation issue, girls want to work on domestic violence, also transgender issues related to that, right? Um, and lots of efforts are also happening, right, on the ground. So in your understanding and as per your experience, which are which are the solutions that you want to highlight here, or of, right? And what are the key factors that you think are there which enable change on ground, right? How do we really understand that we're creating an impact which we can measure and which we can also track, right? It's a meaningful impact. So yeah.
Yeah, I think Divya, I don't think I'm going to answer that question in a way that, what are the kind of interventions that are needed? Because all kinds of interventions are needed because the problems are manifold, right? There are still a major part of our population who don't have access to menstrual products too. So there is no uh, I wouldn't say that the solution is needed more than another solution, but I do think that there is an underlying pattern that I have seen in the solutions that are coming up, right? And if I had to talk about the women's interventions, and this is just for all of you to sort of keep in mind whenever you're designing an intervention with women and girls at the center of it, right? And I feel like the development sector or the social sector, which has done a lot of work, what they have done time and time again is treat women and girls as beneficiaries, right? As somebody who is at the receiving end of a solution, right? And I think that's a fundamental problem. So if you look at providing education training or micro loans or entrepreneurship training or any of that, right? The pattern always, or getting menstrual products to a particular community or anything, it has always been treating women as somebody who receives. And at the same time, there is this entire, on the other hand, a discussion about having more women in leadership and having, more women in decision-making positions and in boardrooms and getting a board seat and all of that, which is great. But I feel like there is a huge gap. On the one hand, you're treating women as somebody who is receiving, and on the other hand, you're expecting them to just suddenly lead, right, and be in leadership positions. So I feel like there is a great gap that we need to bridge. And whenever we are designing solutions, and I feel like Girls Action Network is doing that to some extent, which is why I was very excited when Olivia told me about it. Is because we are saying that here are these young women who are going to be leaders, right, who are going to be we are completely shifting that, and we need to do that. We need to completely shift and ensure our girls and young women have the opportunities to lead. They are problem solving, they are practicing how to do it, right? How do you solve problems in the community? How do we build teams? How do we mobilize people? How do we strategize from a very early age? Because if you're not doing that and then you're suddenly put in a leadership position, it's a huge disservice again, right? So then these skills that will help you build change over a period of time, you'll practice and get better at them. And the real success parameter for women will be in their ability to experience agency, right? Experience that complete freedom on their own decision making abilities. How do I improve my capabilities? How do I have control over my finances? How do we make decisions for my family tomorrow, for my children? Instead of how much loan have you received, or oh, what is the small delta increase in income that you have experienced as a result of some intervention? So I think we need to change that, right? We need to completely change how we are looking at women from passive receivers to active leaders and active decision makers and people who have agency and control over their lives. Because if we don't see ourselves in that light, you can't expect women to have a board seat. It's not going to happen that easily.
Yeah. I'm so happy to hear this because this totally resonates. I mean, in my like 4 years of experience on ground, everywhere I've seen this, and I think I've also felt it that we need to involve women or even beneficiaries, as we call them mostly in the social sector, right? They need to come in the main program, the design part, because we're making for them. They cannot be just at the receiving end.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree on the leadership part, and I think just want to share this one small example, which I strongly feel about. Like this was when I went to Silvassa, and I think that was the first time when I saw the concept of Sarpanch Pati, right? So even though we have, reserved seats for women in panchayat institutions, but they're not leading it because we've just given them that space. But where is the capacity building part, right? And that is something very, very important to address. And this is why I think we really need to make them an integral part.
Yeah.
Of this movement or whatever solutions we try to design. Absolutely agree with you on this. Uh, Great. Like we were talking about networks, right? And
Yeah.
also talking about small steps that we
Mm.
can take and can actually create change, right? It just adds a picture. To understand from you, like, how do you think, like, these collaborations, these networks, such as Girl Action Network, and for every girl also to, sort of realize in herself that she can create a change that she wants to create. So how does it actually address the issue of centralized change? Like how like we have to make a decentralized change, right?
Yeah.
And we have to make it sustainable. It
Mm.
just keeps on adding on and on and on and on. It's not a time thing. So how do you think these networks and small steps help?
Yeah. I think the beauty of a network like the Girls Action Network, one, like I said, is that you're starting young, right? And which honestly for me solves half the problem. And for the longest time, our young girls have been told that they can't do things, right? I have a 6-year-old, and when I take her out in a family setting, there are many things that she's told that she can't do, or and that at that young age. Um, so firstly, the power of, I'll come to the power of networks in a bit, but the power of a network of women or a network of girls itself is that and there's many a lot of research has shown that an educated girl is more likely to become involved in workforce, bring economic stability to her family and community. And by educated here, I don't mean the traditional education, by the ability to lead, by the capacity to take charge of your life. And Many of them also invest majority of their income into their families and communities, reducing poverty and improving health, safety, and education for everyone. So now imagine the moment that when a network of women like you will recognize their power to change and unleash that on everyone, right? I think, and they will step up and lead teams, whether in workplace, government, civil society, family life, whatever it is, it benefits us all, right? Now, coming back to the power of networks, right? And being part of one of the largest networks of social entrepreneurs of the world, I think the most powerful part of a network is that it's non-hierarchical, right? And what I mean by that is that each one of us who is part of this Zoom room, right, um, is the owner of this idea that girls need to lead, right? And girls need to be at the center of bringing in change, right? It's not Olivia, it's not Divya, it's not She for Change. I think the power of the network is that ownership of that idea lies with everybody here, right? And similarly, when I come from Ashoka, everyone a change maker is not just my idea. It's Olivia's idea as much, because she's an Ashoka Youth Venturer. It's an AYCer's idea, which is an Ashoka Young Changemaker or an Ashoka Fellow. Each one of us owns that idea, right? And I think that's the most powerful part of a network. So all of these young women here are owners of this idea, and each of them will grow as a change maker, and will also impact more and more other young women and girls to be change makers. So it's like a domino effect, right? And which will accelerate change and multiply impact at a much faster rate, and which is exactly what we need as far as the women's empowerment is concerned. So yeah, I think this is a step in the right direction, to say the least.
Right. So in the starting, you spoke of the need for young people to come into this social development
Hmm.
kind of movement that we're looking at. Uh, like if somebody like a young person were to ask you like, what role can I really play, right? Because when you think of it, it seems like a daunting task. Like I'm here and I'm so young. How can I make a change? And so like how do you think like what role do you think young people make, and what role can they play that is critical to this movement or change making?
I think I think there are two things that every young person can do, right? I'm trying to simplify this, and because it's important to simplify this, it's because the easier it is, the more likely it is that we'll go out and do it. So there are two roles. One is identify a problem within your community. Start with that. Um, find like-minded people. Don't take no for an answer. Okay, and go and solve that problem that you really care about, right? That's the first thing every young or old person has to do, right, and should be doing. Number two, at least find five people, or I don't know how many ever people that you can, and inspire them to make change, right? We need to ensure that this doesn't stay with you. We need to ensure that many other people are contributing to bringing change, because that's the only way out. So I think these are just two very simple things. Oh, and if you're an adult, I would say there's one more thing that you should do, which is, if a child comes to you and says that they want to solve this problem and this is the idea that they have, don't say no to the idea. Let them do it, let them solve that problem, and don't try to take control of it and solve it yourself. So I think if each one of us does these three things, I think we'll be in a good place, because we'll be taking ownership of a lot of things around us.
Yeah, that's really. I think I hope everybody made points here. I mean, noted these points down. This is a very simple way in which Dr. Shruti told us. So just to know about your favorite, project or something that you worked on that really impacted you in a way. A very specific project, a very specific experience that you would want to share with all of us.
um, I think I'll go back to not something that I have done, but something that I have experienced in both my impact investing life and as which is being part of Ashoka. I think I've been very fortunate to witness some extraordinary work that has been done on the ground by social entrepreneurs. And one of our earlier Ashoka fellows, Sumita Ghosh, who also happened to be the first investment that Avishkar ever did. And she built Rangasutra, this organization who works with rural artisans, and they've done some excellent work to bring about socio-economic development and inclusive growth in rural India. But what is wonderful about Rangasutra, and I experienced this firsthand, is it is owned completely by the 1,000 artisans, and they're shareholders in the organization, right? And I remember this one board meeting where you had all of these artisans in their traditional ghagra choli, being a part of that board meeting, and discussing how what the direction of the organization should be and what strategies should be in place. I think that was just so powerful to see that it's not a bunch of people in coat, suit, and tie sitting and making decisions about rural artisans, but they are doing that themselves. And I think that was one of the most powerful experiences that I have had. And another fellow of ours, Ashoka fellow of ours, Hasina Karbi, and you might have heard about her, who has spent over 30 years to end, women and child trafficking in the northeastern part of our country. She's not just rescued them, but has also rehabilitated them and ensured livelihood opportunities for these women and children who have been rescued, right? And her model was to prevent trafficking was adopted by by all the 8 northeastern states, and was approved also by the Indian government and supported by the United Nations. So I feel like Hasina's work is a classic example of system change. So it's not about you doing an intervention and just changing the lives of the communities, but it's about bringing that larger change and shift in how a problem is handled.
Stories. So I think we have 6 more minutes. So before we start with the questions, so just to end it, understand what is your vision, as a change maker, especially with respect to seeing women in leadership roles. I think we've understood most of it, but yeah, if you were to summarize it in one line, and how, this network like Girl Action Network can help in culminating this vision, right? Want to tell the girls here today that they can take with them and use them in their journey to be change makers.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think, like you said, Divya, I think I've been harping on that for the last 40 minutes on, what what I would, what my vision is. But yeah, I'll summarize it very quickly. I think I want every girl to realize their power as a change maker, and by that I don't just mean solving problems in their community and taking control of that, but also taking control of your own lives, right? And believing in your ability to bring change, be it for yourself or for your communities. And once we start, but the powerful thing about solving problems in your communities is, right, is that it helps you develop the ability of overcoming challenges in your own life. Because um, when you're solving problems in your own life, you're not able to see it from a distance, right? But when you're solving problems with the community, you're able to sort of detach and look at the problem for what it is and solve it. And that ability will help you solve your own problems in life, and help you get wherever you want to get. So it's very important that you experience this journey of bringing in change and solving problems, and experience the joy of creating an impact in someone else's life, right? Because I think there is no greater power than the power to give, right? And if you're able to do that, and if you're able to give that gift of giving to five others, or I don't know, many others, that nothing like it. So please, with this journey, when you get on this journey, do that with all your heart and soul, and try and learn as much as you can while bringing change. And I think another aspect, and why I feel really strongly about what you're doing at Girls Action Network, is um, girls growing up with change making skills, or practicing, young women practicing these skills, right, will start an immediate chain reaction to their success in problem solving, their participation in the workforce, their involvement in political and democratic processes, which creates a ripple effect throughout the world. And for never think that oh, मैं ये छोटा सा कुछ कर रही हूँ, इससे क्या होगा. ऐसा नहीं है. Whatever you do has an impact, and it you will see it, right? So girls growing as change makers, they can completely catapult themselves into a bright future, and people around them as well. And it's so lovely that you are part of a network which is providing you an opportunity to do just that, right? Once you practice these skills and become powerful agents of change, you can do anything you like, no matter what you choose to be in life, you can. And I'm not saying this just from a motivational speech sort of a thing. I'm talking about this from evidence. One of our greatest observations and learnings with the community of youth venturers and Ashoka Young Changemakers we have built is that young people who step up early and challenge the existing youth culture and broader expectations are powerful role models for others, right? And they have a very special impact on adults. Tomorrow you walk into an interview, for whatever job you want, you will have a completely different sort of an ability. So it's not about you want to be a social entrepreneur after this or not. It's about whatever you want to do in life. This is going to take you a long way. So whenever someone starts innovating early in life, and this is our internal Ashoka study, we have seen that they're 3 times more likely to end up in a position of senior leadership. They're 4 times more likely to become a successful entrepreneur. So it really doesn't matter what you want to do in life. These skills are going to serve you for life. So thanks to the Girls Action Network for giving all of us this opportunity to do that.